Eoin Lacey, welcome to the Protest Podcast, my friend.
Thank you so much for the invite. Delighted to see you again. I'm interested for this conversation we're going to have. I will set up just precedent to all the listeners. I am Irish, so you may need to slow this down on your Spotify account if I talk too fast, and maybe a Google translate some Irish words if you don't understand someone. But I'm sure they'll be okay. Yet.
Well, I mean, we first met we were talking about this before the podcast. I think it was around 2014. The reason I say 2014 is you had come to my gym for our last day of the Irish Strength Institute mentorship, and it was your birthday, and we had just got some brand new assault bikes in, and we hadn't really played in the assault bike yet. And obviously we had a gym tradition back then. We definitely don't do this anymore. We should maybe bring it back, which was if it's your birthday, you got to do that many, I believe it was that many calories on the assault bike, and it was burpees into calories. I think it was.
Okay.
Um,
I
and
can't fully remember. It was a nightmare of mine, but yeah, I somewhat vaguely remember.
to be fair, I mean, on our course, we had a lot of pretty hard charging individuals in the gym space. So there was no doubt a bit of pressure on you to have to completely end yourself, which you definitely did. And you were definitely written off. Thankfully, it was the end of the mentorship, and I don't think you had any more to present at the end of that. But you were definitely written off.
That was it. It was game over. It's a funny story. A friend of mine, Jeff Willoughby, he has a studio, a gym in Wellington, and I just flew over for the weekend to Wellington from Ireland. So it was a crazy trip. So I get over there and I said, you know what, Jeff, the best thing to do is to do a bit of exercise to get your brain focused for the seminar. So I did a bit, I think I did maybe an arm session or something really generic as a workout for 45 minutes. Finished the workout, all the attendees are coming in, sitting down in the gym. And I said to Jeff, what's that on the board? And it said the Inquisitor. And there's all people's names and times beside it. And he said, oh, no. I said, what do you mean? We have a rule. If anyone asks what the Inquisitor is, they have to do it. So it was like a shuttle with a sled, a low-handle sled, 5 meters back, 10 back, 15 back, 30 back, and then you have to pull it back in the sled. I think the top time was something like a minute and 47 seconds, and I smashed it at a minute and 41, and I got sick in the bathroom. I was sitting there with my legs up, going, the seminar was 30 minutes delayed because I couldn't get myself together, jet lag and the Inquisitor. So look, you can't talk the talk if you don't walk the walk. You have to get in and do it too, you know?
Yeah, I mean, and that mentorship, I think we should just provide a bit of context. So you had flown from Ireland to Hong Kong, and you were hosting. There was a level 1 and level 2 mentorship. So basically, the idea was you're working with coaches in the industry, and you were going to basically make a return trip. So you came, I think it was for a few days, and then you went away. You came back months later. We had homework and things to do in that time. But personally, for me, that mentorship, I think played a really pivotal role in my coaching career. I had done all the Poliquin education up until that point, had just finished being a professional athlete and was just looking to always level myself up, and still am. And there was just a lot of concepts that were talked about on that mentorship that were very eye-opening for me, especially at the time. One of the things that I'll remember was ask all attendees of the mentorship had to get their adrenals tested. And so we had our cortisol done, sent off to Switzerland, I believe it might have been. And then we had a result when you came back 3 months later, and you would sit down with each person on the mentorship one-on-one and talk through their results. And it was really funny because my results at the time, I had my cortisol flatlined. So basically like rock bottom from morning till nighttime. And I remember you asking me, Ed, what are you doing with your day? Like, how are you so messed up? And I was like, I was 25 at the time, and I've, plenty of resilience. I felt like I could handle anything. But the cold, hard fact was that I wasn't sleeping. I was very, very stressed out with my business, but also I think emotionally. And just, was completely naive to the potential health impacts of that. And it wasn't until you left. I remember you saying, how often do you train? And I said, I train twice a day, 5 days a week. And you were like, you've got to cut that down to 1 session a day. And like, you need to make some pretty big changes. You asked, how long did I sleep? I think I probably said like 5 hours. And you were just like, obviously red flags going off in your head everywhere. And I remember being on the listening end thinking, mate, this guy doesn't have a clue. Like, I know the results, the data is saying one thing, but I feel great. And it wasn't until probably 6 months post that time that all of that hit me. really, really hard. And I felt all of it, re-torn ACL, like chronically low sex drive, rashes, infections, constant illnesses, all these things just started hitting me. And that was probably the time in my life where I started to go through a bit of a deep dive on trying to understand what else is there that contributes to health outside of just training and diet. And I think, that moment and you asking us to do that, and obviously everything you taught us on that mentorship about functional medicine and training and looking at health and performance in a more holistic way was just really impactful for me. So I wanted to just start by sharing that with you.
Well, that's first of all, I'm sorry you went through that transition. That seems like a really tough time, both personally and physically, emotionally. Like, the one thing you have to look deeper, and that's when we did those adrenal stress index tests. We all have 24 hours of the day. We all have a certain amount of time that we can spend. But how the body is responding to that, how it's adapting to that, will manifest in different ways. Some guys are executives. As a former athlete, you're used to going 100 miles an hour. But I use my phone as an example. We start every day, I'm sure, with 100% on our phone, but by the end of the day, the batteries are drained. And how the batteries get drained is all the apps you have open in the background are draining you. And you might not feel that training twice a day was zapping your energy, but then your business, your relationships, if it's kids, if it's financial, if it's sickness, if it's illness, they all zap the battery. And when you ask the body to respond to something, when you're at 5%, it doesn't respond. So when you tore your knee again, when your sickness, your rashes, your mood, your libido, that's because the battery is low. And when the battery is low, everything is harder. I make the joke in seminars, we've all been hungover. I'm sure we've all been hungover in our life. What's hard when you're hungover? Everything is hard. Blinking is hard. Breathing is hard. So if you're walking around chronically, I'm not saying people are walking around chronically hungover, but when their battery is zapped, their response to exercise, their compliance on nutrition, their sleep routine, their deep sleep, their light sleep, their REM sleep, their immune system, their body composition, it's all a manifestation of how well the body is interacting with your lifestyle. So for me, when I say to people, the gym, like I'm a gym owner, you're a gym owner, it's not about the gym. What someone does 1 hour in the gym will not negate what they do the 23 hours of the day they're outside of the gym. What we're trying to do is give a stimulus. When you're in the gym, in any gym, you're asking a question: get bigger, get stronger, get leaner, get more flexible. You're asking the body a question. But how the cell is, how energetic that cell is, the nutrient status, the hydration status, your genetic, composition will respond how it can adapt. You could be you could have the best program in the world, but if your immune system, if your protein intake, if your vitamin and mineral status is insufficient, it will not positively adapt to that training stimulus. And this is what we call accommodation. Accommodation is scientifically shown that your body will no longer positively adapt to a training stimulus if you overtrain, or your body isn't resilient enough or optimized enough to recover from it. Hence why so many people do, steroids and do loads of other things, because the body can't respond to the training. There's a missing link, and that adrenal stress index is a little bit of a window into where your current hormonal, balance was, and your bank account for what it was depleted. So there was a lot of depletion going on. You didn't realize it, you didn't feel it, but it was anticipate to something happening worse down the line, unfortunately.
I think this is stuff now that is being talked about a lot more these days. I think obviously things like social media made it more prevalent, and it's made it easier to have the conversations. People like Huberman, we just talked about, are bringing these conversations kind of like a cool way, a neuroscientist bringing really important conversations to the table. But I feel like in 2014, no one was having those conversations then. So I kind of want to ask you, like, what brought you to that, all of that, thinking about that kind of stuff? Did you have your own story? Was it through education? Was it through school?
Yeah, it's funny because this is my only ever career. I've been a coach from 1996. I started coaching people in the gym. So since I was very young, and I remember in college I was studying with the honor exams in nutrition, and I remember reading this book by Michael Colligan. It was called Optimum Sports Nutrition, I think the name of the book was. And what it basically said was, if I give you a potato from Ireland, or if I give you a potato from Hong Kong, it's not the same. But if I look up on, MyFitnessPal, a potato is a potato. It's X amount of carbs, X amount of, fiber and sodium and so on. But where it's grown will change the composition of the food. And to me, I started realizing, well, then a carb isn't a carb. A car from Hong Kong or a car from Ireland isn't necessarily molecularly made up the same way. So I get less magnesium from a potato grown in America than I do from Ireland because the soil styles is different. And then I started to think, well, what else is different? So how can I do this diet for one person and it works exceptionally well, and this diet doesn't work? Is it the diet or is it the person? And I was lucky enough to get a job in what was Ireland's largest gym at one point, and then I moved to a different gym. So we 10,500 members, and I was coaching hundreds of people, loads of different athletes, but the response was always varied. And I'm like, why is this working for this person and not this person? So then I got into physical therapy. I studied a lot of anatomy, understand the biomechanics and muscle balance and joint mechanics, and then realizing that certain people need to train a different way. And then there was gender differences. And then there was, I worked with the Paralympic Council of Ireland. So I would train a lot of guys with cerebral palsy and, missing a leg and visually impaired and, hearing impaired. And when you start to coach people that have disabilities, you have to think outside the box. And for me, and now I work with guys with heart transplants, lung transplants, missing legs. I've got, soldiers, amputees, double amputees. You always train the person, you never train the program. So when someone comes into me, I'm going to design a plan that suits them. Maybe it's sleep apnea. Maybe it's PCOS. Maybe it's endometriosis. Maybe it's a psoriasis issue. I'm not saying I'm treating this, person with psoriasis, but I have to treat that person where they currently are in their journey in life. And rather than me just giving you, calorie deficit and a full body, workout, I designed a program based on what I feel you can manage. And then I complement that with nutrition, maybe supplementation, maybe testing, but you have to personalize the approach. And unfortunately, when we're all 25, we're all bulletproof. We can handle anything. We can do anything. But the majority of people, now maybe your gym is different. The majority of gyms in Europe, they're making money off clients that are possibly 35 plus, have kids, are executives, and their body's resilience isn't the same as a 25-year-old. So you have to train people to where their current ability is to positively adapt. I can give you the best workout in the world, but if it's too much volume, if it's too much intensity, the frequency is too high, if the demand on the body is too great, you won't respond to that positively, and you're not going to get the health outcome that you want. So for me, training so many people and realizing the different responders, I had to dig deeper. I had to go into more functional medicine. And lucky enough, at a very young age, I got involved with Paul Chek and then later Charles Poliquin, and I worked closely with Charles for years. I traveled for years. You name it, I went all over the world with Charles teaching. We taught BioSig together, all the PCP levels from 1 up to 5, all the special considerations, and having that expertise training clients and athletes, but then also training trainers. So I would have coached a lot of coaches that were getting certified in the PSCP program, and they would bring their troublesome clients to me. So we all have, those weird clients that don't get results. I had loads of coaches who had loads of clients like that. So I was seeing the unique aspects of different people's challenging clients. And by troubleshooting and coaching these coaches with their troublesome clients, I was able to get a lot of exposure to difficult situations. So let's do one really quickly. One of the biggest things I get from coaches is, I have a female client, she's 40, she can't lose weight and she's fatigued. So first of all, people go, okay, well, what's going on in the diet? Chances are, if that female isn't eating red meat, they're going to have low iron, they're going to have low B12, and they don't eat meat on a general basis, they're not going to have any levels of carnitine. Carnitine makes an enzyme called carnitine acetyltransferase 1 and 2, which brings fat inside the mitochondria to be burned. But if you need air to have a fire, you need air for the Krebs cycle to work correctly. We need that for better oxidation. So if you're anemic, and you've got low carnitine, you're not going to have energy and you won't be efficient fat burner. So a lot of these women coming in, they're cutting their calories, they're overtraining, but they're anemic and they're low in carnitine. So for me, when I see this time and time again, and you talk to females, they won't tell you necessarily, but that's why we have a number of clinics where we have consultations. Women have heavy menstrual cycles, heavy periods. They don't want to talk about it. And that's okay, you don't have to pry. If a woman is having a heavy flow over 5 or 7 days, they're not eating red meat, and they're training a lot, chances are they're anemic. So no amount of training will fix that. No amount of cutting their calories will fix that. That has to be a specific intervention for the anemia that person particularly has. Otherwise, they're going to be flat all the time. Energy, mood, libido, skin, hair, nails, brain fog, fertility, all these things will be compromised until that issue is addressed. And that's from years and years, I've seen patients like that. That's the area of expertise that I've gained, and from learning what not to do.
One of the things that struck me when I first met you at the mentorship was, I guess, just your breadth of knowledge in a lot of different areas. And, you know, I know you're working with some really broad populations at the moment, which we're definitely going to talk about. But, you know, where did this idea of, I guess, becoming a generalist and having such a broad skill set, was that something that you always strive towards? I guess there's a lot of coaches who just kind of want to make their thing, and then the moment something feels like it's outside their scope, they just quickly refer on. But what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I do. I most certainly do refer it out on a super regular basis. And what I like about referral is there's a great book called The Little Book of Connections by Jeffrey Gilmer. And what he says in the book is, it's not who you know, it's who knows you. So what I like to do is I have experts in knee rehab and ankle rehab and, you know, jaw manipulation and CPAP machines. I've got experts in all different fields, which means that I know them and that they know me. So there's a good referral system going on there. But one of the biggest reasons is when I used to teach for Charles had a huge amount of knowledge from lots of different areas. So when I stood up in front of a room to present either instead of Charles or with Charles, I'd have to step up my game. And what I had, which was very different than Charles, and I'm not comparing myself to Charles in any way, but what I had different was I was in the trenches. I was a young coach. I had my own gym. I was seeing my clients, so I could relate to the people in the room. So I could understand the challenges that they had, whether it be growing their business, whether it be educating themselves, whether it be, you know, managing family. I've got 4 kids. Youngest is just turned 1 last week, and the oldest is 22. So I've got a spectrum of not only being a parent, running a business, trying to grow a business, trying to educate yourself. So I had that rapport with them. But what I would do is I'd have to fill my gap. So I was talking to a physio. You need to know your anatomy, your physiology. You don't need to know it off by heart, but you have to have a conversation or to read a report. When someone comes in from a nutritional point of view, it's not the standard, just cut your calories and hit it off there. You have to make the program specific to people. So for me, I always wanted to know a bit more so I could bridge the gap. Not that I was going to be an expert in thyroid health or endometriosis, but I would have known the painful period or the killing cramps that were identification or symptoms of these issues. So for me, it was just a want to be better for my clients. And the more and more clients you have, the more and more troubleshooting you have to do, the more like Sherlock Holmes, you have to investigate more things. And then that's what bridges the gap. So, for example, when I was training the guys for the Paralympics in 2008, I looked up everything on the internet. I rang everybody. I visited universities. I was over in Germany. I was in Australia trying to find out how to train Paralympic athletes. And there was zero information, zero. So I was like going, how can I train these guys? So for me, one of my biggest gyms is just outside the door here. I have 40 bars in my gym. So I've got 6 different form of safety squat bars. And the reason why I bought safety squat bars, if you've got cerebral palsy, normally you've got a flexion dominant side. You could have it on both sides. But these guys couldn't back squat. So what do we do? Not back squat them? No, I got a safety squat bar so they could comfortably back squat. I got specially made heel raisers. I got hooks that they strapped on around their hand. You've seen them for people chinning. So you have to think outside the box. Now, if you were to train someone in a wheelchair, if you've never trained someone in a wheelchair, you might start scratching your head saying, what can I do? But when you're in that field, you have to just work with the client, work with the athlete, what is comfortable for them, what their goal is, where they currently are, and how can we strategically put a program in, review it, are we going the right direction, stop. It's like my wife driving the car. Not that she makes the wrong turns, I'm not saying women are bad drivers, but occasionally she'll go the wrong way. Then what happens is sat nav reroutes, and you find a different route to go to where you need to get to. But as I said earlier on, 2 things you need: 1, your current destination, your current location; 2, your final destination. And once you have those 2 points, you can navigate yourself, stop, review, am I going the right direction? Yeah, move forward. Unfortunately, a lot of people, they put a program in place. That's my next 2-month program, a 3-month program. I don't want to be driving 3 months in the wrong direction. I want to stop after a month, assess body composition, fitness, wellness, readiness, recovery. Am I going the right direction? Is this program working for me? Yes, no. Do I need to change nutrition, my supplementation, my coaching, my sequence, my frequency, whatever it may be, and then we move on to the next milestone. So for me, it was about getting more skills to help the more diverse array of people that I was looking after. And for me, I'm blessed. I really am blessed to have worked with from wrestlers to military to, you know, Conor McGregor was my athlete for 10 years. So I trained Conor for years, and all the guys basically from Ireland that went to the UFC came through my gym at one point and continue to do so now. So having that exposure to MMA athletes at a very early age, I got great insight. Actually, my business partner, John Connor, he is now a doctor. He's a doctor of weight cutting for MMA professionals. Because we have so many pro MMA guys in the gym, that's what he did his doctorate in. So there's nobody in Europe that has more athletes through their gym that are a pro level than we have. And the benefit we have is a lot of my guys, like Connor, they've all now possibly semi-retired and they have their own gyms. So within a small space from this location, there's 4 MMA gyms that are their head coach are my athletes, and they send all their athletes to here. So it just we get more and more exposure. And the more you deal with people in that particular industry, the more you go, this guy needs to do this guy needs to do this. Not because of voodoo and magic, I know, but I've seen 100 of those guys. I've seen 50 of those guys. And I know where the weak link is and what they need to prioritize. Not big biceps, you don't want that for MMA, but that's what they're focusing on. So you have to develop the program for that person, knowing that what their destination is, even if they don't know just yet.
Yeah, and I guess it's also developing a healthy relationship with potentially getting it wrong and failure.
Yeah. 100%.
I remember when you were in Hong Kong, you were talking about this guy, Conor McGregor, who was one of your athletes. And you were saying he was bad, and he was like I think he just signed with the UFC or something. He was very close to making it through. And then when he burst onto the stage, I remember thinking, pretty sure that's the guy that Eoin was saying he was coaching.
Yeah.
Tell me about that story.
Yeah, so that was funny. So one of our first gyms, there was an MMA gym not too far up. It was like in a business park. And one of the guys, Cottle Pendred, he was an ex-rugby guy, actually, a lovely guy, Cottle, a good friend of mine. He approached me in the gym and said, look, I'm interested in MMA. I'm quite a strong athletic guy from rugby. Could you help me with some S&C? So he came in. I started looking after Cottle. Cottle did really well, and the biggest MMA gym in the country at that time was SBG, run by John Kavanagh. So Cottle went over to SBG, and they were like, "Oh, this fella, he wasn't super talented in relation to MMA skill set, but he was super physical, super strong, super flexible, and he had a real good grind." So the coach Kavanagh was like, "Oh, who are you training with?" And he said, "I'm training with Owen over in the ISI." He said, "I'm going to reach out to him." So Coach Kavanagh reached out to me and said, "Look, would you be interested in taking on the pro team?" And on the pro team was Chris Fields, was Paddy Houlihan, was Ash Daly, was Conor McGregor, was all these guys that eventually got into the UFC over time, Gunnar Nelson and so on. And that's how the journey started. And for me, and I push this on every S&C coach on the planet, in my opinion, and you could fight me over this, there's pretty much only 3 major sports in the world that weightlifting directly enhances performance. 1 is powerlifting, 2 is Olympic lifting, and 3 is CrossFit. Every other sport in the world, strength training, S&C, gym work should enhance their body to perform better in their sport. So people in the gym trying to lift bigger, get bigger biceps, or better squats or better deadlifts, it doesn't necessarily transfer to sport performance enhancement. So you have to train an athlete for what they're going to do. Now, I'm not saying put dumbbells in their hands and get them the shadow box, but what you need to do is you need to offset imbalance, you need to correct deficiencies, you need to reduce the injury risk, and you need to enhance the athletic development, or whether it be relative strength, explosive strength, capacity. But one of my pet hates is I'm a big fan of energy system training. It's something that I went down a big rabbit hole on. But you could be the best fella on, like me and you could get on a watt bike now, and you could smash me on a watt bike. However, if me and you got on the jiu-jitsu mats and we were doing BJJ, it would be a different world altogether. So your fitness is muscle specific. It's activity specific, it's contraction specific. So just because you're good at boxing doesn't mean you're going to be good at running. Just because you're good at running doesn't mean you're going to be good at the MMA. So for me, my sharp learning curve was getting these guys MMA strong, MMA fit, MMA explosive, which is very different. And back then, a lot of the guys came in, like Conor came in as a boxing guy. Chris Fields came in and Muay Thai kickboxing. Cottle came in on more of a wrestling point of view. So back then, a lot of the athletes would have one main discipline, and then they'd enhance the other aspects of their game. Where now guys are starting MMA and starting all MMA. They're doing everything at the level rather than coming in from a wrestling background or coming in from a boxing background. It's different now. So for me, that was a real learning curve with the weight cutting, with the weight management, with the flying to different time zones in different countries. You have to challenge. You need to put a plan in place. Like I remember, I worked with some key players for the Irish rugby team. Jamie Heath had been one of them, and they're flying over. This was to play New Zealand in Chicago, remember, and they beat them. But I asked him, well, what do you do when you land there? Are you getting a massage? Are you getting this food? He's like, well, no, there's not really a plan. You need to plan for everything. So I would have these guys getting massages on the plane when they land, what they need to do to reset their time zones. So you have a thing called Zeitgebers. And Zeitgebers are exterior influences on your own clock. So my clock now, my phone is on Irish time. If I was in Hong Kong, straight away, I'd get the internet and I'd be on Hong Kong time. But the fact is, movement, sleep, light, heat, they all impact our own internal clocks. And the better our clock or our circadian rhythm is, the better we can perform. But most of my MMA guys were fighting at 10, 11 o'clock at night. Why? Because most MMA events are at night time. So leading up to the events, we start conditioning these guys later on at night time. You could be on at 10 o'clock, but because the fights all went the distance, you might be on much later, or there may be early finishes and you may be on earlier. So there's all these things that as a coach, you only learn in the real world. Or what I think is even better is to go to people that are already doing that and learn from them. Unfortunately for me, we didn't have that luxury of another coach out there doing it because it was very early stages. But you need to anticipate all that can go wrong. Weight cutting, shorts, missing weight. What does he drink after he weighs in? What does he eat after he weighs in? Where is he staying? Who's with him? Who's transporting him? What's his warm-up routine? What position is he on your schedule? Who's wrapping his glove? All these things that you need to put in place. And actually, a funny story, I was in Boston. Connor was fighting Dennis Seaver, with Paddy Houlihan fighting, and Cottle Pendred. So I walked Cottle Pendred out for his weigh-ins. So we walk out for his weigh. All the guys are in this room waiting there, all dehydrated, starving, and they made weight. Big ceremony. Connor's doing a big talk. I think he throws his shorts into the audience, standing there in his box of shorts as he did. And then we get back onto a bus, back to the hotel, and then the guys would eat. They've all changed that now. So now in the UFC, you have like a time zone between maybe it's 9 o'clock in the morning to 12. They weigh in at the hotel and they go. And then the weigh-ins are all ceremonial. They're not real weigh-ins then when they do it on television. But if you have 25 or 40 athletes all, dehydrated, waiting, to get in the scales, that's detrimental to performance. So they've changed things now a little bit. But all these things you learn as you go along.
Well, I mean, I would actually love to talk about just weight cutting in general and the process of it in combat sports, because it is brutal, and obviously there's a lot of controversy and obviously laws changing now because of it. But you coming into the scene, working with the MMA guys, obviously you're now having conversations about all these other things which impact performance. What did you see that was happening from a strength and conditioning standpoint in MMA, and what did you do differently?
So the biggest thing is that so in all sports, we have like a hierarchy of S&C. So there's the priority list that you have to have when it comes to any sport. So particular MMA, there's a lot of fitness. There's a huge amount of fitness in MMA, but it has to be all over the body. So there's a lot of isometric work done in wrestling, and when you're against the cage, and if you haven't got isometric work done in your workout, you'll build up too much lactic acid and you won't be able to buffer it. If you're doing groundwork on the ground, obviously you're closing your guard. There's a lot of endurance in these key muscles that people won't know unless they do it. So what I did was I went to John Cavan. I said, look, I don't know all the dimensions of what goes on in the sport. He said, okay, come to my gym. So I went to his gym. I sparred with Connor, I wrestled with Cottle Pendred, and John Kavanagh choked the absolute shit out of me and beat the crap out of me. So by getting exposure to those fields, you understand the challenges. So for me, what I used to do is bodybuilding training has no place, in my opinion, in MMA. Big muscles are all show. They generally aren't explosive. They use a lot of fuel. They build up a lot of lactic acid. And they don't complement the sport. So somebody that's really jacked in relation to somebody like John Jones, who's much more slender, who can actually be more efficient with their movement, is much better. So one, relative strength is something that we focus a lot on, and explosive strength in conjunction with capacity. So we never really stood around the hypertrophy zone unless it was maybe external rotators or maybe hip rotators, stuff that we need to develop up. But we stayed at relative strength, explosive strength, and capacity. Capacity and energy system training was always changing. We would wrestle, we would assault bike, we would ski air, we would battle rope, we would inertia wave, we would do a lot of strongman training. Me, I'm a big fan of strongman, throwing slam balls, throwing kettlebells, farmers walked, ropes, kegs, logs, something that's challenging. So we made all our conditioning much more transferable. And I don't know if you remember, but there's a guy called Valdemir Zakowski. And what he has is he's got two principles, a lot of principles, but two key principles of training. The period of delayed transformation, which means if you get bigger in a gym, it doesn't mean you can express that strength until the period before it gets better, and then the period of delayed transmutation, where you take that new strength and you get it into the sport. So the body adapts differently over time. So it takes about a month or so for the adaptation to take place, and then that new adaptation takes again about a month or so to be in the sport. But with strongman training, if I have you out on the track there doing strongman training and you get fit and strong and powerful and that, the crossover into an actual activity like rugby or like MMA is much faster. So it's like building an engine and then driving it. So we're building better engines in the gym. And plus mentally, when I put a guy through, we've got guys fighting on St. Patrick's Day, and when guys are in the gym and they know they have that reserve, they know they can drop a gear, they know they have that strength and power, and they've got through these sessions. And when they're in the cage and when they have that minute break, it allows them the knowledge. I've been here. I know what this feeling feels like, and I can go back out refreshed again. So for me, it's about not following the normal S&C approach, following the individual athlete. Some guys are very powerful, but they had no capacity. Some guys had great capacity, but no power. So you have to find out what they need to work on, develop that athlete. And for me, I used to go to guys as strong as I can, and to be able to replicate that strength for as long as they can. Obviously, I'd like them to win in one round and get no damage, but that's not always the case.
I feel like you're working with a lot of the martial arts crowd. Like you've obviously the MMA stuff and working with Connor. I believe you're working with the Azerbaijan Olympic team now. Tell me who you're working with now predominantly.
So I consult with the Azerbaijan Olympic wrestling team. I've done that for many years, and I go to and from. We had a lot of guys competing in the 2016 Olympics. We had nine medals, which is the highest amount of medals in one sport for any one coach in Ireland. So that was a huge achievement. So I was hugely proud of that. The reason why I got that job, it was reached out to by a colleague of mine. I don't actually go out to look after combat sports. It's just what fell on the table. So for me at the moment, like me individually, I look after a lot of corporate wellness. So that's something to do a lot of, where I actually go into businesses and do corporate presentations. I get together a team and I position a team in a company to look after it. I have a clinic that I look after executives with maybe health concerns, or athletes maybe looking to get that 2 or 3%. I classify myself as what is called a performance consultant. I help people perform better no matter what they're looking for. But I do it whether it be nutrition, training, lab testing, coaching, support, mentorship, guidance, whatever you are, whether you want to improve on the basketball court or the bedroom or the boardroom. I always try to find out what aspect that we can put together a plan for that person. That might be osteopathy, that might be, rehab, I might be a psychologist, but I try to put together a plan for those people. But the people I'm working with now at the moment are like, I've track and field guys, I've got military guys, I consult for a tech company, and we make technology to track the readiness of soldiers, anxiety, stress, body composition, and it's actually embedded into their oh my God, thought that was turned off. There's always one thing. I say technology and then it rings. So for me, the evolution of the industry is to try to work with not as many different people as they can, but to add value to people. And when people are valued on their health, whether they're an executive, whether they're an athlete, or whether they're a soldier, they're always looking to perform better, stay healthier, and reproduce the high levels of performance. It's all well and good performing well once. It's how you consistently perform over time that's going to be the key influence on your health. The same way following a diet good for 1 month won't necessarily mean you're going to get results. It's what you do on a consistent basis that gets you to where the goal that you're looking for. So I don't know if that answers your question, because I have random clients, and because the gym has so many different clients, the troublesome clients I'll get, and then in the clinic I'll get troublesome clients. So whether I'll be in Azerbaijan training wrestlers, or I'll be over in Salisbury with the Red Bull team, or I'm consulting for the military, whether it be in the UK or maybe in the US, it's all about where do we add value. And after COVID, one of the things I try to focus on, not having all my eggs in one basket. When the gym's all closed, it really was quite detrimental to the business. So now I have some online education that I look after, that I design courses for. Then I have some consultancy work I do with the corporate wellness side of things, the clinic, that I see people from a functional medicine, lab testing point of view, and then in the gym where I train people from a strength conditioning and performance enhancement standpoint.
What about high performance in your own life? Is that something do you put your own life and you under a microscope?
Well, every day. We have a slogan on the gym outside. Every day, get busy getting better. So for me, I'm 42. My son is, as I said, 22. My youngest daughter, she's 1 year old, and I feel like I'm having a bit of not a midlife crisis is the wrong word, but when I was younger, I was traveling with Charles, teaching all over the world. I didn't get a lot of time with him, right? And that impacted me in a way that obviously I was providing for the family, but I didn't spend enough time with them. And that's something that I can't take back. But now with the younger kids, I'm much more present. I'm much more in the moment. And like, I have this diary. I'm always a big fan. I'm not associated with them at all, but it's the full focus planner. And every day I have a list of what I have to get done. I do my affirmations in the morning. I do my meditation in the morning. I get up, I move, I eat, and I plan my day. Today I'm going to have a great day talking to Ed. I'm going to add value to the listeners. Hopefully some people listening will resonate with some of the information and help them in some small way. But every day is planned. At the end of every week, what did I do well? What can I improve on? How close to my targets did I get? Did I hit my goal with education? Did I hit my goal with training? Did I hit my goal with nutrition? Did I hit my goal in leaning out to a friend, a colleague, a co-worker? But every week, that might sound like a military operation, but when you set your week out, and I say this to everybody, have you ever planned out an ideal week, or what an ideal week would look like? And maybe it's like date night on a Friday, 4 good training sessions in the gym. I went for a hike. I got a cold pool. I did a flotation therapy session. I got that book finished I wanted to do, or that course I wanted to do. I hit my targets with PT sessions or memberships, whatever it may be. That's a good week. And then you replicate that week. That's an amazing year. So, excuse me, my problem is a lot of guys are drifting. There's a great book called Outwitting the Devil. And by Napoleon Hill, and what he says in it, he says, the devil loves people procrastinating and getting nowhere. It's a bit of a funny book, but the fact is, you have to actively make decisions to get to where you want to get to. If you ever met someone that's successful, and I say this to executives all the time, I'm involved in this corporate company, and they're a pharmaceutical company. And everyone in the company is very educated. A lot of PhDs, a lot of double masters. And I'm saying, you got your masters, you got your PhD from hard work, consistent, reproducible hard work over years, and you're in your position you're in because of the work that you put in. But you can't expect to put a month into nutrition and training and be the healthiest person you've ever been. That's not what happens. So for me, I have a plan. Sometimes I get to the plan, sometimes I don't. But I have a plan every day, every week of what I need to do, and then I'm held accountable. And Jack Canfield said it best: you are 100% responsible for where you are in your life. So you make your own decisions. Nobody feeds you by accident. Nobody goes to the gym. You don't go to the gym by accident. You don't go to bed early by accident. You have to make conscious decisions. And once we make those into a habit, that's when it becomes habitual. That's when it becomes common. One of the things I say to people is, has anyone ever forgot to take their supplements? And they're like, oh yeah, I forget to take them all the time. When's the last time you forgot to leave the house without brushing your teeth? You don't. You just brush your teeth before you leave the house. So we want to make these simple things habit. You get up, you meditate, you journal, you focus on the day, and you leave the house or you leave the car or you go into the gym, focus on in your office to have a good day. I make a joke. My wife rings me. She says, "Hey, babe, I can tell by babe whether she's hungry, she's horny, she wants money, something happened to the kids. I can tell anything from just 2 words." So, but when you're talking to a client, when you're talking to a co-worker, when you're talking to one of your teammates, your rapport, your language, your speed, your tone, your energy, it impacts them. So you can choose to be a big, negative Nelly or an energy vampire when you walk into the gym or into your office or into your workplace, or you can choose to be that person that, man, Ed's on form today. He's energetic, he's focused, he engages, he adds value. He doesn't talk, he listens. Those people talk over you all the time. Sit back, listen. Where do I add value? How can I positively contribute? How is it going to help you move forward? And when you have that plan, I think it's the golden ticket. You know exactly where you're going to go to, and you enjoy life much better. And all this thing I talk about, your location, your destination. And I used to be super focused on the destination. Get this course, open this new gym, do this new business, get this new members, work with this Olympic team, get this gold medal, get this level. And then I'm like, feck it. Just enjoy the journey. So every day, no matter what I do, I just enjoy the journey. I enjoy talking to you. I'm going to enjoy coaching clients later on. I'm going to enjoy getting some study done. I'm going to do a flotation session towards the end of the night before I go home. So I have things planned. And there's a lot of security and confidence knowing that my day is planned. And I've planned it. So if it doesn't go to plan, I'm the one to blame.
I mean, I don't think you're mad at all, because your day is exactly the same as mine. And people think I'm a little bit crazy, but that's just a recipe that works for myself. So it's very nice to hear that you're someone very similar. And it doesn't surprise me. I'd like to ask you about the mindfulness side of things. So like the meditation, the affirmations, the journaling, that's something that I resonate deeply with and has had a very profound impact on my life. When did you come across that? And when did that become something that was a part of your life?
So I've always journaled. I have journals from way back when and diaries and my goals. But I did the meditation side of things. I laugh at people because I'm a gym monkey. People look at me, oh, you're a gym head or whatever. I get that. So for me, meditation was very hard. And I did yoga back in the day that didn't link with me as much as I would have liked. So I got this app called HeartMath or Inner Balance. You familiar with it?
No.
So HeartMath. Yeah, so HeartMath is an app where you put an electrode on your ear and you meditate, and you go into what's called a coherent state. So when you're in when you're parasympathetic dominance, you basically try to get the circle blue all the way around. You're not thinking about other stuff. I've always been interested in breath work, and we've a guy who specializes in breath work in our network. But for me, meditation, I needed something. So I used the Calm app. I use Headspace for years, and I want the Calm app, and I do it twice a day. Sometimes I used to just go out the back garden, put my feet in the grass, just do, 10, 15 minutes of breath work, visualize the day, do my affirmations, and then I'd start the day off. The problem for me, Ed, was that because I was working with too many different time zones, I'd get home into the house. The kids obviously want to see their dad. I haven't seen them all day when I chat to my wife. And I'm half messaging clients back. I'm half, oh, this is the diet. People are sending me pictures of food, this program. I've got a guy ringing me from Canada. I've got this. So it was just diluting the person that I was. So I actually have a good picture to show you. Like when you're on the rugby pitch, you're wearing your rugby gear, you're playing rugby. You're not there with one boot, one shoe, one toy on. So you can't be playing all these different sports. So people talk about work-life balance, and not to be rude, it doesn't exist. There's no such thing as work-life balance. And anyone that says that there is doesn't have their own business. You don't clock in 8 hours and work and clock in 8 hours in your family and clock in 8 hours in bed. It just doesn't happen like that. What you do have to have is what's called, for me, work-life integration. When I'm on the phone, when I'm talking to you, I'm talking to you. You've got my attention. When I'm at home with the kids and my wife, I'm at home. I'm present. I'm being mindful in that moment. And when I'm in work, I'm in that moment. I'm present. I'm focused. I'm getting my work done. But when this all blends together, I think it's a problem. And there's too many things going on at one time, particularly people working from home. So what meditation gave me is, it didn't necessarily slow my thoughts down. Some people say it does that. And it's called a meditation practice for a reason. But for me, it allowed me to say, okay, I need to do this, I need to do this, I need to do this. I'm going to enjoy this moment. get the breath work done, feel restored, and then go off and play. I'm going to do A, B, and C, rather than blending it all together. And it allowed me to come to terms with stuff that I was trying to do too many things at the one time. Not because I that's what I wanted to do, but I wasn't efficiently using my time. And no matter whether you're a billionaire, a trillionaire, whether you're, no money, everyone has 24 hours in a day. And we spend that time wisely on active tasks that are enhancing our health, our family's health, our relationship with our friends, our family, or whatever it may be, or your partner, and your education, your business growth. But it's when you drift and you're half doing stuff and half doing that, you're getting nowhere, and then you're getting frustrated. And then when you have this, when you're a bit more centered and calm, you can say, well, actually, you know what? I'm going to ring a friend of mine. I'm going to ring someone and say, I'm actually having trouble with this. Can you help me? Or I'm feeling a bit low. Can I talk to you about something? I think when you're in that position, you're more open to seeing different opportunities. And we have a slogan in the gym: there's always an opportunity. In every situation, you have an opportunity to make a good decision, a bad decision, or to look out for help. But not making a decision is a decision. So for me, I set myself up for success. I try to set myself up for success. And that may be success as being a dad, as a husband, as a friend, as a son, as a brother. We all wear different hats. We all wear loads of different hats. But unfortunately, what I found myself wearing is my work hat all day, every day. And so for me, meditation helps me to realize, no, work helps you get money, you enjoy it, but it's your family, it's your friends, it's your relationships that you need to work on. And for me, work, and people say, oh, you're lucky you do a job that you love. I had to build this job. There's no one doing what I did when I started. Like, I'm coaching people years, and there's not many people that do this sort of industry and be successful at it. So you have to work all the time. There's no salary coming in the end of the week unless I do the work I need to do for me and for all the staff and all the team.
You said there with meditation that you realized that you had to do it. Was there a catalyst in your life? Was there a moment? Was there something that told you, right, you're not being present in your everyday life, and I need to change something?
Yeah, like I could go down the genetic route, and I could say something like if you're familiar with the MTHFR gene, you might have heard that before. There's another gene called the COMT gene. The COMT gene is the catecholamine all-methyltransferase gene, and what it is it helps bring people's adrenaline down. A catecholamine is down in the body, so people tend to be a bit more wired when they have this gene, or a bit more focused, a bit more. They'll overdo work, or overdo alcohol, or overdo training, or overdo study, or overdo anything. For me, my dad worked all the time, and he was never around. So luckily enough, I worked. My wife looks after the kids and stays, and that's what she wanted to do. But that doesn't mean that I have to work all the time. So for me, the meditation helps me be the person that I want to be, rather than just getting caught up in the hustle and bustle all the time. So the meditation for me is, I love it. It's only 10 minutes twice a day. Like, my God, go to the bathroom will take longer for some people. So in the morning, in the evening time, I just resets it. It really does. And I think a good friend of mine, he's a psychologist for the Irish rugby team. He says, meditation is medication. So meditation can be very helpful for a lot of people. And just quite, even like, this is the thing. It doesn't, like, you obviously do it. It doesn't have to be sitting on a rock in a field somewhere. It could just be, put your phone away, go for a walk outside, and come back to go to work. It could be you doing 4 rounds of box breathing, 4 in, 4 hold, 4 out, 4 hold. It could be you stretching in the ground, just listening to music. It could be anything, but just getting away from the hustle and bustle all the time. And that reset has been shown multiple times to reset the brain, the focus, the clarity, the decision-making, your attitude, your mood, your hormonal status, your neuromuscular status, your sympathetic, parasympathetic tone. It can all change by simple and easy things to do. So for me, I could say, do a genetic test and do this just twice a day. Take a bit of time for you to breathe, to move, to switch the brain off, to talk, to journal, to listen to some music, to do a guided meditation app, to, whatever it is. But it is super powerful. And I think that the more people implement these key things into their daily ritual, will have a profound impact on their success moving forward. Like, people watch tons of episodes of all sorts of nonsense on Netflix, where if they had one episode, split it, 10 minutes in the morning, 10 minutes in the evening, that's the same as one episode of most stuff. But the impact it would have how it would help your HRV, your readiness, your immune system is profound. But it's not fancy. It's not fancy enough for a lot of people. But the power, it's super powerful.
Yeah, I think there's definitely more of an acceptance towards it, and I think probably the pandemic played a pretty big role in actually taking away a lot of people's busyness. Of course, like, you know, also led to a lot of not so good things for a lot of people. But I think certainly for me, I actually started exploring meditation in 2016, which I think was quite early. The Headspace had an app already, so I was quite an early adopter of Headspace. And I actually gravitated towards it because I needed help sleeping. Probably you won't be surprised knowing what my adrenal scores were like, but I just couldn't sleep. And so doing research about how could I sleep better, one of the things that kept on popping up was the idea of meditation. And so I experimented with it, and then it just quietened my mind and allowed me to be a lot more present when I actually got into bed. And so I just literally thought, well, if I can carry this into other aspects of my life, where perhaps, because it actually just it first made me aware that how unpresent I was. And, you know, I like to call it like sleepwalking through life. And it's essentially kind of what I was doing, just sleepwalking through every single day and just going to bed and trying to sleep and rising and doing it all again. And so that was my first introduction. And I think COVID, even though meditation was already a part of my everyday practice, then having a lot of my busyness taken away from me when the pandemic started, then I felt the second wave of what quietness and stillness could actually do for my physical and mental health. And then it was like, all right, well, I just need to keep on leveling up now and incorporate this even more into my practice. And now it's something that, yeah, I will do till the day I die.
Yeah. It's interesting. So that really resonates with me because I've seen it with lots of people. But if I ask you about a stress hormone, you'd straight away think of cortisol. People know what cortisol does and what it does in the body. And the positive, we need cortisol. Otherwise, you wouldn't get out of bed, just so you know. We need cortisol, but we need the right sort of curve. But if I ask you a feel-good hormone, people are a bit like, so oxytocin. So oxytocin, you can get it from having sex, obviously orgasm. You can do it from charity work. You can do. It's also called a hug hormone. You get from hugging your friends, and you get it from dogs and doing charity work. But that was missing. So that community was missing. And one of the things that's been shown in the fitness industry across the board, people that go to group classes, that train with other people, stay members of gyms for longer because there's the community. There's a bit of an ethos, there's a team environment. And with COVID, that was separated. So I think it's important that as much as we meditate, as much as we, you know, look after nutrition and training, we need that feel good factor. We need that, you know, bond, whether it be with a sibling, with a partner, whatever orientation, whatever it is. I think we need that togetherness, and that oxytocin is important. And I think with meditation, I think we're more open to, you know, cherishing and nurturing those relationships, which is essential. It's a key part of health.
Yeah, you know what's interesting was, you know, you were talking about the pandemic making you realize that you needed to diversify, not have all your eggs in one basket, and moving into the online space. You know, we very much did something very similar and launched the Process Programming. You know, you talked about the Process earlier as well, which is an online coaching organization. But throughout that process in the last 3 years, it has also made us realize the importance of, like you said, human connection. And that human connection not just being a virtual one, but being, you know, like contact, hugging skin to skin, eye contact, and realizing how important it is that we need to still have that be a part of the organization. So as much as we're online and we're sitting behind a screen and delivering programs and providing feedback, you know, creating events where we can get people together and network and spend quality time has been super powerful.
Yeah, 100%. And I have a friend of mine. He's a founder and he runs a big gym chain in Saudi Arabia. I was lucky to go over and see him a number of years ago. Hadn't seen him in ages. And he was in London on Monday. And I had a few consultations on Monday, but none that were so pressing I couldn't move. So I moved him and I flew over to London to see him. Just that I'm not passing by Saudi Arabia that easy. But London is 50 minutes away. It's very short distance. So I flew over to see him, to catch up with him. Because that's something that I wouldn't have been able to do in the past. I would have had too much on, I wouldn't have been able to do it. So to go over to see him, to catch up with him. And that's what you want. That's what life is all about. You can have the most amount of money, but time is precious. Time is more precious for me than it is money. So the fact that I got an opportunity to go over and see him, it just helps to help that relationship, to help that bond. It's always better to see people in person if you can. Virtual is okay, but for me, particularly in our profession, if we can, some live events are always advantageous. And people bounce off each other a bit differently, and it's a break away from work as well, to break away from where you are. So I think it's essential, that physical component.
So kind of taking this full circle to what we talked about at the start, which is like the beauty of group training and having people training collectively together. And then going back to something you talked about at the start, which is like, the program is not everything, and the importance of looking at the everything else, the other 23 hours of your day that contributes. And I know you guys are doing some group training. So, how do you strike that balance? Getting people to buy into the group program, to sell and essentially deliver a group program, but to also still make people think about the individualization of everything else that needs to go on in order to make it successful. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. So if you're selling a package in a gym, how do you explain that the results that you're going to get from the gym are going to be manifested both by what you do in the gym, but more importantly, what you do outside the gym?
Yeah.
So when someone invests their money and more importantly their time into your facility, I think it's as a professional coach, I think it's your job to say to whatever that person it is, that this is a component. Exercise is a component to your health and well-being. It isn't a sole thing. So what we need you to do is do the work in the gym, but walk the walk outside. And I get people to rank their health. So for me, what I do is there's a few different things, but normally there's about 5 sort of things you can do to do what's called a health bank account lodgement. So lodge energy into your bank account. We have sleep, we have water, we have hydration, we have macronutrients and micronutrients. Everything else that you do in a day takes from you. Exercise takes from you. Relationships take from you. So what we need to do is, in order for you to get the benefit from the gym, we need to make sure we're doing these 5 things every single time. We're sleeping, we're drinking, we're breathing correctly with the right macronutrients and right micronutrients for that person. And once we're hitting those 5 things, we'll move forward. But if you're not sleeping, and we do a lot of blood glucose analysis, when people don't sleep, it messes everything up. Cortisol, insulin, forced phase insulin response, digestion, allergenic symptoms, SIBO, leaky gut. They're all made worse with poor sleep. So if someone's coming to you or coming to any gym, my suggestion to those is, if they're training, which I think they should train, they should move. But I use the analogy of a car. So as we said earlier on, we have one, our where we currently are, 2, our destination that we're going to. In the car, only one person can drive the car at a time. In my opinion, the biggest issue for the majority of people is nutrition is bad. The driving force. So I'm the driver, I'm nutrition, and exercise is in the passenger seat of the car. That's what we need to have. In the background, we have sleep and hydration and maybe, mental health, whatever it may be in the back. But in the front, for people to get their body composition and health and wellness, for a lot of times, not all the time, it could be nutrition and exercise. So we need to focus on getting the right nutrition to get the benefit from exercise. But if sleep is our issue, sleep needs to be improved. So there needs to be an attention to sleep. I've got a sleep course online. There's tons of apps about sleep. There's sleep trackers. There's loads of stuff you can do. But that needs to be coached. So I would say to that person, what we need to do before we go hard into training, there may be a preparatory phase, like there is in all conditioning, where we focus on sleep, nutrition, and then we can go hard on the training. But if you push somebody hard on the training that has poor nutrition, that has poor sleep, it's a car crash waiting to happen. It's a ruptured disc. It's a knee issue. It's a not getting results. Oh, I went to Ed's gym and got no results. No, you went ready to get the results because your body wasn't metabolically flexible. You weren't nutritionally optimized. Your hormones were all over the place. Not to say that that's an excuse, but you just would stagger. So maybe the first month, it's mobility. It's a little bit of cardio, focusing on sleep. The next month, it's more interval training. It's more nutrition because you got your sleep sorted. So you stagger like you would in blocks of training. You would stagger the priority. Not that you would never leave exercise out. Exercise is always going to be the passenger in the front seat, but it's not the driver, because unfortunately, if it's the driver, the longevity of your journey is going to be broken down because sleep, poor nutrition, poor lifestyle, whether it be too much alcohol, too much drugs. Like I've got a lot of people over using substances just to get through their day, whether it be like over-the-counter medication, whether prescription medication. That's not going to help long term. So we build strategies in to improve those 5 key things, and then you can kill people. You really, I mean, I love killing people in the gym, but that's not the be all and end all. It's good to see, and I get enjoyment from it, but it's what you surround around the training sessions to optimize the physical and mental adaptation from the workouts.
Yeah, I love it. I totally agree. And I genuinely think that sleep, if I could choose a sleep superpower, which is a classic question you get asked all the time, I honestly say, like, I wish I could just sleep 9 hours solid every single night, because I know that the impact
Yeah,
that would have on my everyday life would be so, so significant that that's what I wish I could just control as a
yeah,
constant. Um,
yeah.
so
And I did a go for it.
no, you go.
I, I had a friend of mine, Ken Kanakin. He runs a Canadian education symposium, not every year, every few years, but I did one on sleep. Um, and what I did was I talked about the biggest thing people can do to improve their sleep. And what I wanted to do in the presentation, I did 3 years of research because that's how long the event I had time to develop content for it. But what I did was I banned any recommendation that I've ever heard before. So any recommendation you hear, like black out your blinds and get off your phone for 90 minutes and take melatonin and take magnesium, none of that stuff. I went away from all that stuff. Do you know why? Because everybody knows it, but it still doesn't work, right? So if you want to improve, and this is just two key things, and I'll stop talking. Two key things that we need to do to enhance sleep at nighttime is start off in the morning. Yeah, sleep at nighttime, the rhythm starts off in the morning. We need that. We call it a process C and process C and process S, where we want our circadian clock to come down. We want the sleep drive to come down. So we have energy, as you know, ATP in the body. And when we build up adenosine in our body, that helps us sleep. So we need to move in the morning, get sunlight in the morning for at least 14 days, and that rhythm will massively help us sleep. But unfortunately, too many people are doing stuff to cause imbalance in those two cycles. Yes, melatonin works. Yes, magnesium can help. Yes, meditation and getting off the screen can help. But it's what you do consistently in the morning, and you prepare your body for sleep in the morning that will enhance the deep and restorative sleep at night time.
Tell me honestly, what's your sleep like?
My sleep is good, and I've got a 1 year old in the bed now at the moment. But my sleep is good. I generally will get at least, like I used to track it on the Whoop band all the time. Now I'm on the new Apple Ultra watch because we need it for a tech company. Not that I love Apple watches at all. This is only 2 days old, but it's good. I consistently get at least 6.5 hours sleep every single night. My routine is I'm generally up around 5:30, 6 o'clock every morning, which gives you a bit of time to keep before I go to bed. But no, that's one thing that I'm blessed with. The only time I'd probably have an issue with sleep is if I'm on an early flight somewhere and I'm up at 3:30, 4. You know, your brain doesn't want to get to sleep, but that's not that often. So I'm really good on that side of things, and I've got a good routine. It's just the way it is. Black room, and I'm up early, so it allows me to sleep well at night time.
Oh, and like hearing about all this crazy stuff that you're doing now with your life, if you think back to a younger Eoin in your early coaching days, did you ever envision that this would be what you're doing at 42?
Uh, it's funny because there's a girl I worked with. Her name was Janira Linton. She was a coach from New Zealand. She said to me, "Oh, what are you going to do when you leave the gym?" I said, I'd love to do a bit of teaching, all over the place. And I did that, and I sort of achieved that. I traveled all over the world with Charles. No was the answer, Ed. I wouldn't thought about that, but I didn't think I'd see iPhone with touch screens like we have now. A lot of stuff that I wouldn't imagine. But yeah, no, I don't know what I was doing. I know I love this industry so much. I don't know whether I wanted to be a 50-year-old coach still having to coach people. I like the ability to be able to coach people, but I don't want to have it as my main source of income. Another thing, like if I could turn back the clock, I wouldn't have opened as many gyms as I have opened. I probably would have only opened one, not as many as I have.
Why is that?
Yeah, and I would have. Why? Because like the opportunities came, the facilities came, the locations came, the team came. So I did that. But for me, like this one place I'm in now, you can't see it now, but we have the marina. So there's yachts just outside the store here. I have a big clinic across the way, a huge car park. It's private, and it's in the most affluent area in the whole of Dublin. Like it's a really lovely area. I would just have this one gym where I could do my S&C, do my nutrition in the clinic, do my education online, rather than having other things that I don't necessarily not that I don't enjoy it. I do. It takes my time, but I'd rather just have less places and focus more on one than multiple places. You know.
What keeps you coming back? What keeps them pushing? What keeps them driving you to keep on pushing, keep on growing, keep on improving? I mean, like personally, but also your businesses.
Yeah, well, I really enjoy it. Like when you go to Azerbaijan and you coach athletes in Azerbaijan, or I was in Salisbury with Red Bull, or I'm working with the military. It's interesting and it's always evolving. Like I study all the time. I gave myself a goal of doing 50 audible books every year for 10 years. So
That's
last year I did that. So I get through a book a week. Every week I get through a book. But this is the thing, I read so much stuff. It's always the same sort of stuff. And when you read a book and if people listen to this podcast, they'll probably hear the differences that what I've said against Huberman or somebody else or Ben Pakulski or somebody different. So you always find out the differences. And for me, the differences are getting less and less. Like if you go to a gym in Hong Kong, New Zealand, Ireland, anywhere, they're all relatively the same. I'm going to say my gym is different, but it's not. Barbells, dumbbells, watt bikes, assault bikes, woodways, whatever, track. It's all different to MMA area, whatever. They're all relatively the same. What's new? Who's pushing the boundary of something new? Is it functional medicine? Is it IV therapy? Is it NAD plus? Is it, allergy testing? Is it, electromagnetic fields? Is it hyperbaric chambers? Is it wearables? Is it, Halo Sport? What's the new thing? And I want to be on that frontier of learning all the time. I'm consulting for this tech company for the last 5 years. Actually, Hugh, it was indirectly through Hong Kong I got that, which is serendipitous. But I want to be always learning different stuff. So body composition is something that I was very into at the start. And BIA is the old technology. BIS is the new technology, which is more medically certified, more for lymphedema, for cancer and so on. But stuff like that, about them getting that really expensive tech and now putting it into a watch, that's how fast things are evolving. Like we can get heart rate from a wristband now, or blood pressure from a wristband. We can get sodium, potassium levels from light. So things are evolving. I think my hunger and thirst to learn more is to help more people, is to diversify the business, is to be flexible to when the industry changes or modifies, that we move with it. I was caught on the hop with COVID. I'm going to say that out there right now. I wasn't on social media until I was 40, so just 2 years ago. And then when I set up my educational company online, Eoin Lacey Education, I just did that because I had time to develop the courses that I always wanted to do. I didn't have to travel to teach, so I put them online, which means you put them online, more people can hopefully benefit from the content, use it in their practice, and it's just, content. So I think for me, it's the constant evolution is because I enjoy it. My team outside, they always laugh at me. They say to me, I'm on my way down and they're on their way up, so we're meeting halfway. They're always messing, but that's what I enjoy it. I love it. I love this job. I love traveling. I love teaching coaches. I love learning more to help other people. And sometimes when I see other coaches, I'm not putting any coaches down, but when I see coaches saying, do it this way, do it that way. No, do it the way that works for your client in your country or on your business practice with your knowledge. So I never force anything down anybody's throat. What I do is I try to show what can possibly be done. Is it wearable technology? Is it online coaching? Is it in-person coaching? Is it mentorship? Is it shadowing somebody? Is it, if you want to learn how to train people in MMA, go to see someone that's training people in MMA. Read the books, do consultations online, learn more. I constantly, we've got a group of doctors that I'm involved in. There's 102 doctors in the group. They send research papers in all the time and summarize them. I ask them questions, they bounce it back. Dr. Eric Serrano, good friend of mine in Ohio, I go to see him regularly to get new advanced information from him, and just travel, learn more, so you can help the people that you're dealing with. But when you're really good at your job and you're doing it for a long time, you'll just get referrals all the time. And the more you help people, the more your business grows, the more you can not necessarily charge more, but the more you diversify your business and make it more solid.
What's really cool is that all the things you've spoken about on this podcast, and obviously it's been 10 years since I've spoken to you pretty much, are all still the same things you said back in 2014, which I think is a massive
good. I'm glad.
Which is a massive compliment, to know that, at no point were you one of the people that was saying, is in the time that I've known you, that this is the right way and this is the wrong way. And it's that everything could potentially work in context. It's just very refreshing to know that I feel very grateful to have been exposed to you at an early stage and had that impact on my career, and to see you still doing that and saying it is also super cool. Just wanted to share that.
Brilliant. Great. Actually, we had Lane Norton in the gym one time, and Lane, if you know Lane is quite prolific on internet, and he speaks his mind. And actually did a podcast with Huberman, which I thought was really good. But he was in Ireland. So I reached out to him and said, we're both involved in the sports society. And I said, would you mind coming to the gym to do a talk for the staff? So I read everything that he'd done. Spent a few weeks, read everything he'd done. So I knew what he was going to talk about. And he came and he was talking, he did 4 or 5 presentations. And then at the end of the presentation, I asked him, what about this? And he goes, Eoin, it depends. What about this? He says, Eoin, it depends. By the end of it, I just said, I love it, Lane, because exactly it. It depends. Every situation depends. Depends on the person, depends on the age, depends on the health profile, depends on the genetics, depends on how much money they can invest, depends on if they sleep. It all depends. And if you're a coach that doesn't get distracted by that, no. Where's the opportunity here? How can I help this person? Whether it be nutrition, training, stretching, mobility, online coaching, education, recommend a book, recommend this, recommend that, whatever I can do to help that person, it depends. But there's always an opportunity. But if you say it's carnivore, it's keto, it's CrossFit, it's only Olympic lifting, it's only this, what are you doing? If all you have is a hammer, everything is a nail, don't be that guy. Be the guy that says, let's embrace what this person's ability is, let's embrace where they want to go, and let me coach them to help them. You're coaching a person, not a system, not a program, not a methodology. You're coaching a person. So you have to listen to that person. Don't force your opinion onto them, but and support and guide and coach them as best you can.
It's just that's not sexy on Instagram mode. Saying it depends doesn't get the clicks and it doesn't get the follows. And I think that's obviously what spurred such a movement in perhaps being, right or left field, which is basically what Layne Norton does, right? He takes the videos of the people in the world who are saying that this is the right way and this is the wrong way, and basically provides context, which I think is awesome.
Yeah.
I was listening to Layne.
Yeah, 100%.
He was one of the first guys when I made the decision to start diving deep into nutrition, after the precision nutrition days and ticking those boxes, was his podcast. And I was like hooked every single night for years. So I totally agree.
It's interesting that you say that. So John Berardi met, unfortunately, I can't remember the guy's name, who we met at the Swiss convention. So that convention I talked to you about, Ken Kanakin over in Canada, he met the other founder of Precision Nutrition at that seminar. And that's when they came together. That's how Precision Nutrition came about. So being at live events, talking to people, not only is it education, but also you can collaborate together. You can, that link together has made a very successful and a very profitable company. I think they do a very good job. They simplify a lot of stuff. They're not only in the art of science, but also the art of coaching and behavior change. I think they do a very good job on that front.
Yeah, me too. Eoin, what does the future hold for you?
Future holds for me happiness. Happiness, health is what that's the first 2 things I say from affirmations every day. Happiness and health. I want to make sure that I'm enjoying myself. I add value to my friends, my family. I'm building a house at the moment, which is a big challenge at the moment. So I'm building a house at the moment where we're living in an apartment, and I'm building it for the kids to have their own room and have a bit more space as the family has grown so much. But it's to be happy, it's to be healthy, it's to keep enjoying my time, enjoying the journey. People I engage with, I'm this is not going to sound big-headed. What I say to nearly everybody now, the return of your investment. And my return of investment is my time. But I only spend time with people that are positive. I've really cut away people in my life that are just drinking too much, or they're not into this, and they're just negative people. So whether it be a business venture, whether it be a client, whether it be a football team or soccer team or a business venture, whether it be wrestlers, whatever it is, I only get involved when it's a positive thing. When I know it's going to be negative and not going to be beneficial. Financially now, I'm not in a situation where I have to do it. When you're younger, you just do it. You do anything. You do everything to get money in to keep going. Now I'm selective because it's my time. If I get the money, great. If I don't get the money, I don't really care. So the fact is now, what future holds for me is happiness, is health, is enjoying my job. And now what we've created, I'm not going to open any more gyms. I'm going to stay where I am. I'm just going to work on the team that I have, the clients I have, and then give me that free time. So I can say no to some things and say yes to better things. But you can't do that when you're doing everything. So to narrow down my focus, to prioritize what I need to prioritize, be in the moment, enjoy it. I do like the online education is something that I enjoy, because what it allows me to do is, so for example, on my website, I have a whole thing on sleep. So when someone comes to see me for sleep, I say, you know what, let me send you this course on sleep. Oh, you got a problem with writing programs, let me send you this here. So it allows me to stack or to give extra value to someone because the content is online. So I really like that. So that's something that I will definitely continue to do. And I'll bring other experts in. I will do some. We have an internship with Dr. Serrano coming over for some elite coaches in the gym. So we'll do that. That's always something that I enjoy to do, is to coach. But having the freedom to coach or to travel somewhere and do a workshop is what I like. Without necessarily, in the past, I would do that and come back to lists of work to do, all trying to catch up on. Now I can prioritize that and, you know, delegate them to other coaches.
Nice, Eoin. I resonate deeply with all of that, and super cool and super refreshing to hear that, you know, your future is about, your internal health and happiness, and it wasn't necessarily about big shiny objects and other things. So
100%.
Eoin, where can people find out more about you, what you do, you know, be a part of your courses, visit your gym? Could you tell us a little bit more?
Yeah, so I again, 2 years now, I have an Instagram account. It is Eoin Lacey Education. I have a website called ownlacyeducation.com, which I'm going to give you an offer for anyone that's listening today. It's going to be Ed 2023 to get 25% off any course they want if they're interested in it, and that ends on St. Patrick's Day. So Ed, capital E, capital D, 2023 to get 25% off whatever they're interested in on the site. So, and that's pretty much it. If someone wants to reach out to me via Instagram, by all means, whether it be a corporate talk, an internship, a mentorship, I'm open to help anyone in any way I can. What I would say is I always want to make sure it's valuable to somebody. So if you're at a stage, maybe new in your career, maybe 3-4 years, maybe I'm not someone that may come and see, there may be some other experts that I can recommend. So it's just key learning objectives you want, whether it be business development, functional medicine, S&C. If there's something like that, let me know, and I can either help you, or I can refer somebody else on to you, or I can send you some course titles or books to look up. But happy to help in any way.
Awesome. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure. It's been great catching up after 10 years, and, you know, very, very inspired by your journey. And it was a pleasure to chat to you, my friend. Thank you.
Super stuff. Nice talking to you.